Link TV, connecting you to the world. Link TV is viewer supported. Watch more at linktv.org.
Link TV presents Mosaic World News from the Middle East. Here are today's top stories.
Suicide bombing leaves 36 worshippers dead in Iran. Amnesty International accuses Libya of torturing migrants. And Hezbollah leader seeks inquiry into international tribunal. Mosaic World News from the Middle East begins now.
An explosion on par with the many explosions witnessed in Pakistan and Iraq took place in Iran today. A suicide bomber infiltrated dozens of worshippers commemorating Ashura in Iran's southeastern city of Shabahar, killing at least 36 people. That number is expected to rise as the number of injured has exceeded 50. Our correspondent in Tehran reported that Iranian security forces captured a second suicide bomber before he was able to detonate the explosive device attached to him. The Sunni group Jundallah claimed responsibility for the two operations, the latest in a series of tensions witnessed in the province of Sistan-Baluchistan for the last 10 years. Shabahar is located within the province, and a significant number of ethnic Baluch people live there, the majority of whom are Sunni. For more on this, we are joined from Tehran by our correspondent Rida Al-Washa. Rida, has more information been revealed about today's two explosions?
The information that we have received so far indicates that the number of killed and injured has reached 85 individuals. 38 people were killed and 47 were injured. As for the details of the operation, the plan was to have the two explosives detonate simultaneously amid the Ashura commemorations that are held in the city. However, security forces were able to prevent the first operation, while the second operation was carried out near the ambulances, causing a high number of killed and injured. In addition to Jundallah claiming responsibility for the operation, the Iranian Deputy Minister of the Interior blamed the operation on American intelligence and the intelligence services of a certain country in the region, but did not reveal the identity of that country. However, he indicated that a country in the region was certainly involved in this operation.
Rida, the Jundallah group claimed responsibility for the operation. Is this a declaration of Tehran's failure to eliminate the group, even though it executed its leader, Abdul Malik Rigi?
Tehran, of course, would not say it failed in eliminating the group. However, it believes the group is grasping for its last breaths through this operation, which it described as desperate. So far, it seems that these operations are not desperate attempts, but reinforce in Iranian security the need to eliminate this group, which has its headquarters outside Iranian territory. The group exploits large gatherings that take place in Iran, where security is difficult to control due to the crowds and the open landscape of these regions.
أصدرت منظمة العفو الدولي تقريرا يدين كل من ليبيا والاتحاد الأوروبي.
Amnesty International issued a report condemning Libya and the European Union for cooperating to prevent African migrants from reaching Europe even though they face harsh living conditions in their countries. The organization indicated that those migrants are subject to torture and humiliation if arrested by Libyan authorities in their attempt to reach European shores.
مخاطر شديدة يواجهها هؤلاء المهاجرون أثناء محاولتهم عبور.
These migrants face severe risks in their attempts to cross the vast and rugged Libyan deserts in hopes of reaching Europe. However, what is worse is what they could face if they fall into the hands of Libyan authorities.
أحدث تقارير منظمة العفو الدولية تتهم ليبيا بانتهاج تصرفات غير إنسانية.
The latest Amnesty International report accuses Libya of detaining illegal migrants who try to infiltrate Europe by sea or land in inhumane conditions. The report says migrants, refugees and political asylum seekers are subjected to torture and indefinite detention in Libyan prisons.
لأجل غير مسمى داخل السجون الليبية. فعندما يتحول المهاجرون إلى معتقلين.
When migrants become prisoners, they are hit by guards, but don't even dare complain or ask for medical care because that would only cause additional punishment. The majority of migrants come from countries that are either facing bloody conflicts or harsh living conditions that force them to flee seeking a better life. According to the organisation, those who flee via Libya have nowhere to turn for help, especially after Libyan authorities suspended the work of the United Nations Office for Refugee Affairs in July.
لم يعد لديهم أي جهة يلجؤون إليها طلبا للمساعدة، خاصة بعد أن علقت السلطات.
However, the international organisation's criticism did not only target Libya, but the European Union as well. The organisation accused Brussels of turning a blind eye to what it referred to as Libya's recurrent human rights violations.
بغض الطرف عما سمته بالانتهاكات المتكررة لحقوق الإنسان في ليبيا. وفي أكتوبر تشرين أول الماضي
In October, the European Council signed a cooperation agreement with Libyan authorities to manage the flow of migrants and to control the border.
وبمقتضى هذه الاتفاقية ستحصل ليبيا على 50 مليون يورو حتى عام 2013 وذلك مقابل.
Under the agreement, Libya is to receive 50 million euros by 2013 in return for its cooperation preventing African migrants from crossing Libya's land and sea to reach Europe. Sally Nabil, BBC.
Israel deported 150 illegal Sudanese migrants back to their country in the largest secret operation of its kind in Israel's history. This comes as part of a series of similar operations undertaken by Israel without media uproar. Over the last 7 years, Israel has deported hundreds of illegal African migrants. At the same time, Israel has begun work on a wall along the border with Egypt that costs $400 million in order to prevent additional African migrants from coming in.
نستهل جولتنا من حيث أفاد مراسل الجزيرة في القاهرة بأن عددا من وزراء الخارجية العرب يعقدون الآن اجتماع.
Our Al Jazeera correspondent in Cairo reported that several Arab foreign ministers are currently engaging in a consultative meeting at the Egyptian Foreign Ministry's headquarters. The Arab League's follow-up committee is scheduled to meet tonight in order to review and discuss the new U.S. ideas for the relaunching of peace talks between Israelis and Palestinians. The U.S. sent its special envoy to the Middle East to urge the Palestinians to discuss the core issues pertinent to the creation of a Palestinian state.
ضاقت مجالات الحلول التي يمكن للسلطة الفلسطينية التحرك فيها للتفاوض مع الإسرائيليين.
The Palestinian Authority is running out of choices for resuming peace talks with Israel. This news comes after Israel rejected a U.S. demand to halt its settlement activities. The PA in Ramallah is no longer aware of any terms of reference that could be used to convince it to restart peace talks, whether direct or indirect, with the Israelis. This is what prompted the PA to go back to the origin of the negotiations and reiterate its terms, as confirmed by Saeb Erekat. First, the U.S. must secure guarantees for the Palestinians before engaging in any kind of negotiations, whether direct or indirect. Second, Israel must freeze settlement activities in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Third, the talks must be based on clear terms of reference that will lead to the creation of a Palestinian state on the 1967 borders, with Jerusalem as its capital. Fourth, an international force must be deployed along the borders. Fifth, all final status issues must be resolved, including the refugees. And finally, the U.S. must not hinder Palestinian efforts to seek recognition at the UN Security Council or General Assembly in case they fail to agree on the terms of reference or in case the U.S. fails to recognize the state of Palestine.
الولايات المتحدة بدولة فلسطين. الولايات المتحدة التي اعترفت بفشلها في إقناع.
The U.S., which admitted failing to convince Israel to freeze its settlement activities, has sent George Mitchell, its special envoy to the Middle East, to revive the peace talks between the Palestinians and Israelis.
أفكار واشنطن الجديدة يبدو أنها ترتكز على محاولة إقناع الفلسطينيين بالموافقة.
It seems that Washington's new ideas involve convincing the Palestinians to discuss the core issues through a new round of indirect talks, but without laying out specific terms or making reference to the settlement issue. Today, Mahmoud Abbas arrived in Cairo to inform the Arab League follow-up committee of the new U.S. ideas. Mitchell will meet today with the Egyptian leaders to rally support for a new U.S. peace prospect, which seems to bring nothing new.
أحيت
The Hamas movement held a mass rally today in Gaza City to celebrate their 23rd anniversary. Thousands of Palestinians gathered at the green Katiba Square to mark the anniversary. A number of Hamas leaders, most notably Prime Minister of the Gaza government, Ismail Haniyeh, attended the rally. Hamas said they accept a Palestinian state with full sovereignty over the whole land, with Jerusalem as its capital. It also defended the Palestinian right of resistance. Hamas vowed to foil Israeli Judification practices and called on Arab rulers to act quickly and lift the siege imposed on Gaza. The Prime Minister of the Hamas-led government in Gaza, Ismail Haniyeh, said his movement rejects any talks with the Israeli occupation and vowed to continue the resistance, along with Palestinian factions. In his speech marking the 23rd anniversary of the launch of Hamas, Haniyeh said they will never recognize the Israeli entity.
We say it today. We will not recognize Israel. No concessions on principles, land, Jerusalem, or the right of return. We accept a state on all Palestinian land. It's an era of resistance. No concessions about the rights of the resistance. It's an honor to be at the heart of the resistance. It's an honor to have a government that defends the right of resistance. It's an honor to be among the people who hold the future of the resistance.
Here in Jerusalem, there were sharply different reactions in the Knesset to the Palestinian declaration that they would refuse negotiations with Israel in any format as long as construction continues in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. We begin with Deputy Foreign Minister Danny Ayalon, who told IBA's Leah Zinder that he does not believe the U.S. will exact a price from Israel for its refusal to extend the settlement moratorium.
There's no price. Israel should not pay any price. Settlement is not really the one issue which blocks peace. Historically, we know this is not the case. I would say even on the contrary. And Israel is willing to discuss settlements, but it shouldn't be singled out. And it should be discussed simultaneously with other very major issues like security arrangements and, of course, Jerusalem, refugees, recognition issues, end of conflict, many things. I believe that this is the only way to move forward, with sitting together. I think that what we have seen is that, unfortunately, our approach so far has failed because of Palestinian rejectionism and intransigence. This is not to say that we should not have a plan B, and we fully trust our best friends and allies, the Americans, and I believe we will continue to look for and find ways to keep the process on, to keep a dialogue on, even if we have to take now a second-best approach of indirect negotiations, but at the end of the day, there is no substitute to direct negotiations without preconditions.
However, the Palestinians are saying there will be no negotiations at all, including indirect negotiations, until Israel stops construction in the West Bank and East Jerusalem.
Well, they have said it before. I must say that although this was their position for the last 17 years, they never put it as a precondition. And if they start with preconditions, there's no way to move around it. I believe at the end of the day, reason will prevail, or maybe international pressure will prevail. And I believe that if the Palestinians are really serious, instead of now expending so much effort in faraway places like Argentina or Brazil, they should come 10 minutes drive here to Jerusalem and discuss everything. The solution will not be dictated in faraway places, only here.
I'm very upset in general where the negotiation stands or stops right now, because I believe that it's our interest, the interest of Israel, to see some progress and to negotiate with the Palestinians about the future of this piece of land. The Palestinians themselves should remember that in the past, until 2 years ago, they were negotiating with Israel and with the Israeli government while the construction went on. So the situation has changed. They basically do not believe Netanyahu. I believe that if there was a certain base of confidence between them, things would have been different. But they don't trust him, and that's the core of the issue. They don't believe that Netanyahu seriously considering peace agreement between the Israelis and the Palestinians.
It is a clear victory, and it is a complicated issue, but I think there's a great contribution to the pressure that the lobby for Eretz Israel, the lobby for the land of Israel in the Knesset, and we are more than 40 members of Knesset, mostly from the coalition. I'm from the opposition, but mostly from the coalition. The counter pressure that we were able to produce against the Prime Minister to tell him, if you'll surrender to President Obama and Secretary of State Clinton, and you will elongate the freeze, you may lose your government. And the counter pressure is the only step that we can now produce against the massive pressure against the Prime Minister.
On December 14, 1981, Israeli occupation authorities issued an unjust decision to annex the Golan Heights from Syria and imposed its so-called identity and nationality on the Golan people.
But the Golan people rejected this decision and began protests around the Golan Heights, reaffirming their commitment to their Arab and Syrian identity.
في 14 من كانون الأول عام 81 و900 وألف.
On December 14, 1981, the Zionist entity tried to annex the occupied Syrian Golan Heights through a Knesset decision for Israel to govern Golan. This decision ignored all of the UN Security Council resolutions that considered the annexation a violation of international law and the Geneva Agreement. Therefore, the decision was void and illegitimate. A day after this ominous decision was announced, people of the occupied Golan Heights rushed to the streets in a massive demonstration against it. They gathered in Majd al-Shams Square, chanting slogans and singing national anthems. Their voices echoed over the sky of their motherland.
We are from this land, this country, and this nation. We did not come from the sky like the migrating birds or from the sea. We have been living on this piece of land since the beginning of time, and we will stay on it until the end. Many intruders came to this area and left. They and others will leave, but we will stay. We have roots with deep Arab origins, and our Arab nationalism stemmed from our Arab nation. Our existence is bonded with this land as long as we are living.
لذلك نحن نعتبر أنه نحن وجودنا هو بقائنا في هذه الأرض طالما نحن في هذه الأرض إذا بقائنا موجود.
على الفور أصدرت سوريا مباشرة عقب إعلان العدو الصهيوني لقراره بيانا حذرت فيه من الآثار الخطيرة التي
Immediately after the enemy Zionists announced the annexation decision, Syria issued a statement warning of its dangerous repercussions and requested the UN Security Council convene an emergency meeting to take action in face of this perilous situation. Responding to Syria's request and in line with the principles of international law, after consultation and meetings, the UN Security Council issued a package of resolutions numbered 497 on the morning of December 17, 1981. The package rejected the Israeli decision and considered it null and void without any legitimate international recognition, and affirmed that the Golan Heights was occupied Arab Syrian territory. The Israeli move encountered wide Arab and international rejection. But the racist entity, as usual, did not respect the international community, which considered the Golan Heights Arab Syrian territory that fell under an occupation and must be liberated and returned to the sovereignty of its motherland, Syria.
وتعود إلى السيادة الوطنية السورية.
ثقتنا كبيرة في قيادتنا الحكيمة وعلى رأسها الدكتور بشار الأسد اللي مفخرة الأمة العربية.
We firmly trust our wise leadership, headed by Dr. Bashar al-Assad, who is the pride of the whole Arab nation.
باقين متجذرين في أرضنا محافظين على مبادئنا.
We are rooted to our land, protecting our principles and our Syrian identity, which we will not replace under any circumstances.
29 years have passed since the ominous decision was issued, and the Golan people have not lost any of their resistance and determination to adhere to their Arab identity and land. The executors and their barbed wires will not intimidate the people of the Golan Heights. Returning to their motherland is a right that they will continue to fight for, no matter how long it takes.
Well, for more details on that speech by Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, we're now going to cross over to Beirut, where our correspondent Ali Rizk is standing by. Ali, over to you for a summary of his speech, please.
Yes, well, this was considered a very important speech. Many different factors were mentioned. Of course, we are used to such speeches of important issues or of important essence in this time of Ashura. Now, of course, the speech was divided into two main political parts. One was devoted to the issue of Israel, the Israeli threats, and the situation which Israel is facing right now, where the retreat of Israel, how Israel, of course, used to be considered a very strong power, an invincible power, and how this equation has changed and how the role of resistance has contributed to that. Now, the second part of the speech, which was probably the most important, was devoted to the special tribunal, which is the talk of the town here in Lebanon. Now, the most important points in this were the way he addressed the opposing Lebanese side, the March 14 alliance, and particularly the Lebanese Prime Minister Saad Hariri. He said, and this was direct quote, "The Lebanese cabinet is involved in the fabrication of false witnesses," which was a huge statement to be made. This statement made at the very same night whereby the cabinet was meeting and whereby the cabinet session was adjourned because of a disagreement between the opposition and Hezbollah on one side and the March 14 on the other regarding false witnesses. So he made a proposal to the March 14 alliance and to the government, to Saad Hariri specifically. He said, let's reevaluate the situation. Look at the way the tribunal has behaved. Does this tribunal, by its behavior, does it reflect a tribunal which wants to achieve justice, which a noble, honest tribunal seeking the truth? He posed this question. At the same time, he also mentioned very important points. He mentioned that a former deputy head of the investigation, Gerhard Liman, a German figure, actually sold documents to media outlets, sold information to media outlets and to individuals. So this was the first time actually where Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah gives such a concrete, tangible example of how this tribunal is corrupt and how it is collaborating with other sides. He said that this figure actually sold information and went on to say, to ask Saad Hariri indirectly, do you consider such a tribunal as a tribunal which is searching the truth? And then made a proposal to Hariri, let's go ahead and reevaluate the situation now.
في بادرة للتطبيق مع العراق لوضع حد لبرنامج النفط مقابل الغذاء.
Coordinating with Iraq in order to end the Oil for Food program, the UN Security Council convened a meeting today, chaired by U.S. Vice President Joseph Biden, to extend the Iraq Development Fund for 6 months. Diplomats said the Security Council is expected to issue 3 resolutions that will make it possible to abolish a number of Chapter 7 resolutions and restore Iraqi sovereignty, allowing Iraq to no longer suffer the consequences of the international sanctions in place under the chapter.
The Swedish ambassador denied claims made by the media that Iraqis participated in the latest suicide bombing targeting the Swedish capital of Stockholm.
The Swedish ambassador affirmed through Al-Iraqiya that the alleged perpetrator is from the Abdali family, which is originally Palestinian.
أجندة خفية تحاول إحراج النجاحات السياسية والأمنية العراقية بدك أوكار القاعدة في العراق.
In an attempt to embarrass Iraq and retaliate for its political and security achievements, dismantling Al-Qaeda's dens in Iraq, Al-Qaeda hurried to show the extent of its hideousness and its acts that negate the Islamic principle of tolerance for the world by linking the crime in Stockholm to Iraq. Al-Qaeda claimed that the person who carried out the terrorist attack, 28-year-old Taimour Abdul Wahab al-Abdali, originally Palestinian, was born in Iraq and received orders from the group's cell in Iraq.
القاعدة أرادت أن ترسم ملامح مغالطة إلى معالم جريمة ستوكهولم.
Al-Qaeda wants to give misleading information about the Stockholm crime to show the world that Al-Qaeda still has its roots in Iraq, which is contrary to the truth. This is a desperate attempt to embarrass Iraq, which has multiple achievements, including the latest consensus from the political blocs to form a national partnership in the government, and Iraq's request that the UN Security Council remove Iraq from Chapter 7.
من جانبها السفارة السويدية في العراق.
The Swedish embassy in Iraq affirmed through its ambassador that the terrorist operation will not affect relations between Baghdad and Stockholm.
بغداد وستوكهولم.
Not at all. Not at all. This we are still investigating.
Not at all, not at all. We are still investigating the case. It will not affect the Iraqi-Swedish relationship. And luckily, the terrorist bombing has only made small damages to some buildings. The Swedish government has indicated in a statement that Iraqi-Swedish relations are solid, and such acts will not affect them, and that our government supports the new democratic Iraq, where Iraqi people live side by side in democracy.
British police, who possessed documents on the terrorist, said they issued a warrant for Abdali in 2000, but did not find enough evidence against him at the time. Abdali lived in Luton, which is considered one of the more conservative areas in Britain. Swedish newspaper Dagens Nyheter said Abdali travelled to Britain and Jordan in preparation for the attack that he carried out on Saturday. Hossein Al-Fardosi, Al-Iraqiya.
The views expressed on Mosaic are from contributing broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible from support of viewers like you. Thank you. Watch Mosaic World News online. Stay up to date with breaking news. Read our blog. Get transcripts of past shows and more at linktv.org/mosaic.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.